For as long as I can remember, I have held a deep belief about wild animals. It is a belief that I need you to hear me out on, as crazy as it sounds. If I ever came face to face with a monster, or even a wild beast, there is a part of me that thinks I could reach out my hand in peace. I believe they would understand my gesture and choose not to bite me. We would lock eyes and instantly communicate a profound sense of mutual respect. In that silent moment, they would truly know me for who I am. But let me be completely clear. I recognize that this idea is entirely insane. Almost all of my rational mind is aware of the danger of wild predators. A wild animal's snout is not looking to sniff out a new friendship. Yet, a tiny fraction of my soul still clings to this fantasy. It is a belief that defies all logic and cannot be reasoned away. This urge to connect is deeply embedded in the history of human storytelling. We find evidence of this desire across cultures and throughout the ages. It represents a conviction that we can truly know the nature of a beast. And while it is beautiful, it is also incredibly dangerous. We need to get to the bottom of why we feel this way. To understand this, we must first ask, what is self-awareness? Does a beast possess a mind that can comprehend its own existence?
Do animals think, or are they merely reacting to their environment?
Let us explore the boundaries of animal consciousness and intelligence. You, the viewer, are almost certainly conscious of your own mind. Your brain easily processes the concept of self and identity. It recognizes your own existence in a complex world of thoughts. Other human beings are also assumed to possess this same consciousness. We assume they experience the world in a similar way to us. But what about the other creatures that share our planet? Is a creature like this anteater conscious of its own existence?
Let us try to ask them directly and see what happens.
As you can see, it is quite difficult to get a clear answer. We know animals are aware enough to hunt, eat, and survive. They navigate their environments with incredible skill and precision.
But does that mean they possess a deeper level of self-awareness?
Are they aware of themselves as distinct, individual living beings?
Or is their experience of the world entirely different from ours? This is a question that scientists have tried to answer for decades. We look for clues in their behavior, and their interactions. But without direct communication, we are left to make educated guesses. We need a reliable method to test for the presence of a self-concept.
One of the most famous tests is the mirror self-recognition test.
It is a simple concept. Does an animal recognize its own reflection? No.
If they do, it suggests they have a mental concept of self.
Many animals react to a mirror as if seeing a stranger.
They might attack, play, or ignore the reflection entirely. They often assume it is another animal invading their territory.
But some species show a different, more intriguing reaction. Elephants, for example, have passed the mirror test with ease.
When marked with paint, they use the mirror to investigate the spot. They realize that the reflection is indeed a representation of themselves.
This behavior strongly points toward a level of self-awareness.
Surprisingly, even some marine creatures have shown similar abilities.
And some unexpected candidates, like crabs and ants, have passed.
Yes, even tiny ants seem to recognize changes in their appearance.
This challenges our traditional views of animal intelligence.
However, failing the mirror test does not mean an animal lacks intelligence. Dogs, for example, consistently fail to recognize their visual reflection.
But we must remember that dogs rely far more on smell than sight.
Studies suggest they can easily recognize their own unique scent.
To them, a scent-based identity is far more meaningful than a visual one.
They process the world through a rich tapestry of smells.
There is still so much we do not understand about animal minds.
Our tests for self-awareness are often limited and imperfect.
Yet, they represent a massive leap forward from historical views. For centuries, humans viewed animals as mindless machines.
This archaic perspective was widely accepted in Western philosophy.
Philosophers like Descartes argued that animals lacked any form of consciousness.
He believed they were purely physical bodies driven by mechanical instincts. To him, an animal's cry of pain was no different from a squeaking wheel.
It was viewed as a mechanical reaction, completely devoid of feeling. This reductionist view justified a great deal of cruelty.
It treated living, breathing creatures as mere biological objects.
Medieval bestiaries were not much better in their understanding.
Real species were often mixed up with mythical monsters. This created a blurred line between the real and the imaginary.
The word beast came to encompass both actual animals and legendary threats. It reinforced the idea of animals as dangerous, unpredictable forces. But even in these early views, we see a desire to understand. We see a human instinct to form alliances with the wild.
One ancient tale suggests using a mirror to distract a tiger. By doing so, one could supposedly steal and raise its cub. These stories reflect our deep-seated urge to master the wild.
Of course, anyone who actually tried this was likely eaten.
Yet, the fantasy of controlling the beast persisted through time.
It became a staple of early entertainment and circus acts.
Hollywood has been selling this exact fantasy for over a century. The idea of riding a bear or a dragon is incredibly appealing. It represents the ultimate bond between human and nature. It is a trope that has dominated our stories for generations. We love the idea of turning a monster into an ally.
It makes us feel powerful, connected, and uniquely special.
But this fantasy is often far removed from reality.
The reality of trying to control a beast is quite different.
We see this stark contrast in the history of cinema. Films have often pushed the limits of animal safety. They have attempted to treat wild predators as cooperative actors.
But wild instincts cannot be easily programmed or scheduled.
And the consequences of this hubris can be absolutely devastating.
One of the most notorious examples is the production of the film Roar. Over 7 crew members were injured by the wild animals on set. It is a miracle that no one was actually killed during filming.
The production involved over 100 untamed lions and tigers.
It remains one of the most dangerous film shoots in history. The sheer scale of the predator cast was unprecedented.
Interestingly, the only animal turned down was a hippopotamus.
It was deemed far too dangerous to have on a film set. Yet, the rest of the wild cast was kept despite the risks.
The filmmakers believed they could somehow safely coexist with these predators. This misplaced confidence is a recurring theme in human history.
We assume that wild beasts can be integrated into our scripts. We expect them to follow our directions and respect our boundaries.
But nature operates on its own set of rules entirely. This theme is explored in modern suspense cinema. The film highlights the danger of exploiting wild animals for spectacle.
It reminds us that animal instincts cannot be fully tamed.
They can turn on their human captors at any moment.
This brings us back to the question of animal language.
If we could speak to them, would they understand us? And more importantly, would we be able to understand them? Let us examine the most advanced animal languages we know.
We often look to primates, dolphins, or birds for answers.
But some of the most complex communication happens elsewhere.
Consider the humble prairie dog, for instance.
They possess an incredibly sophisticated system of vocal calls.
Their calls can describe specific predators in great detail.
They can communicate color, size, and speed of approach. This represents a level of linguistic complexity that rivals primates. But what about animals that can mimic human speech?
Does a talking bird actually understand the words it says?
Or is it merely repeating sounds for a reward? Let us look at the famous case of Alex the parrot.
Alex was an African gray parrot trained by Dr. Irene Pepperberg. He demonstrated an incredible ability to categorize objects. Alex could identify colors, shapes, and materials with accuracy.
He seemed to possess a genuine understanding of the concepts. Alex even asked an existential question about his own color.
This remains a unique and highly debated event in science.
That's what I was going to say.
It suggests a level of self-concept that we rarely attribute to birds.
But physical limitations often prevent animals from speaking our language.
They lack the vocal apparatus necessary to produce human sounds. This is why researchers turn to sign language with primates. We wanted to see if they could communicate complex thoughts visually.
And while some results were impressive, they remain controversial.
This brings us to the core issue of mutual survival.
How do we survive alongside creatures we cannot fully understand? We see this challenge beautifully illustrated in the story of Life of Pi. A young Caucasian boy is stranded on a lifeboat with a Bengal tiger. They must find a way to share a tiny space without killing each other.
It is a battle of wills, instincts, and mutual adaptation.
The boy, P.I., must establish himself as the alpha.
He uses training techniques to control the tiger's behavior.
But is this truly communication, or is it merely conditioning?
Does the tiger ever truly understand the boy's humanity?
Or does it simply see him as a source of food and water? The beauty of the story lies in this enduring ambiguity. We may never truly know the unknowable heart of a beast.